Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of the iOS Lead Essentials podcast. Here we discuss the strategies in your journey to become a complete iOS senior developer. My name is Bogdan, I'm a senior iOS developer and lead instructor in the iOS Lead Essentials program, the online training program for iOS developers who want to become complete senior developers. Today, our special guest is Danil, a senior iOS developer from Moscow, Russia, who joined the iOS Lead Essentials program and managed to land a new job that doubled his income and came with a relocation to a new country, Portugal. So join us to learn how he did it and how you can achieve it too. So hello, Daniel, and congratulations.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Hi, Bogdan.
First of all, let me say it out loud. I really admire people with the courage to move abroad and basically start everything from scratch.
I don't think it would be starting from scratch. Well, at least I hope so. Yeah, but yeah, nobody knows how it goes. But yeah, we hope for best.
Yeah, I mean, it's not from scratch, but the whole idea of moving to a new place, like finding school for your kid, finding jobs, everything, at least for me, is a bit challenging. So, like I said, I admire people with that courage. I didn't have it so far, but who knows? Maybe in the future. So, how long have you been an iOS developer?
Well, I started in 2016, and it was like in May I started writing an app for myself, a simple task manager. I think everybody who started tried to create a task manager for themselves. And then, yeah, in July, I already found a job, like a junior developer role in a small agency where I've been working for 4 years.
Cool. And before that?
Yeah, before that, I was a musician, so I was a professional musician. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of gigs around the country with quite famous people in Russia. And before that, before being a musician, I had this choice of being a computer programmer or a musician, and I decided to become a musician. But then I found out that probably it's better to be a software developer.
Wow, that's quite the journey. What
Yeah.
did you play an instrument or you a
Yeah,
vocalist?
yeah.
Yeah,
I played the keys. I mean, a lot of different keys. Yeah.
nice. So how did you find out about us, about the iOS Lead Essentials program?
It was a YouTube channel. So as a as as any of iOS developers, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about programming and development. And well, probably I think that first I found this video in 2000, this channel in 2018 or maybe later when the channel just appeared. And I found that the videos were so, I mean, the thing that was explained there was so obvious so that it didn't catch me, and I didn't pay too much attention to this. But then like in September, I remember it because it was quite close to my application to the program. So in September 2019 or in August 2019, I found the video about my favorite is clean code bases are real. So it was like this how to say it, very sensitive moment when you watch the video and you see that, yeah, this clean code bases are real and your code base is not clean at
It's
all.
not, yeah.
And yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I really love this video, and I watched the series about developing the quiz, and I watched everything at this channel. One of my favorites was the video about architecting the composable view controllers, and that then follows up with architecting the events tracker, analytics tracker.
Analytics.
Yeah, and that what actually caught me, and at those moments, it was the beginning of the channel and of the program of the academy. At those moments, there was the first part. To my mind, it was like networking and probably some part of your system layer that was available on YouTube. So I started watching it, and then I wasn't able to proceed. The only way was to join the program, and that's why I decided to join. So I was very curious how to like finish all this that was started, and how to. I was very curious to see the final code.
Right. Yeah, I can so much relate to what you're saying, because I remember when I stumbled upon the YouTube channel and these videos, and it's like, okay, this analytics video is at a totally different level than anything I've seen before. Like,
yes,
there's so many concepts, so many layers of information applied there. So yeah, mind blowing, and also the I think the one you also mentioned about clean code bases, that brings up some memories. But yeah, so going back to your journey regarding the program, like before you joined, like what was your developer life like? Did you had any issues you were trying to get a solution for, or what was your overall experience like?
well, I tried to find a silver bullet, as everybody tried to. So silver bullet, so that the ideal world is that a manager comes to you and says, hey, we need to like change this logic to this new one logic, and please update this. And you are saying like, okay, I need 1 hour and everything would be fine. So in the real world, everything was quite opposite. So we had to refactor a lot, and every time when new requirements came up, then you had to rethink all the app architecture, all the apps. And the specific thing that I was thinking about is how to decompose the screens properly, and how to share states between screens, like in least detail scenarios, and what should be shared, what should be the single source of truth. Should be a database? Should it be like some container, like in event-driven architectures like Redux? And I was like studying this topic a lot, and I tried to come up with something that, with not the architecture, but with the approach, how to tackle this problem. And yeah, when I started learning, when I started the program, I found out that this is actually the answer. That there is, well, first point, there is no silver bullet, of course, and every architecture is different because every app is different. And the second thing is that you only need to know some basic principles: how do the development, how decompose the screens, and where to put composition, like in the composition root, and how to separate this composition from the logic, and so that you don't have to mix it all together in different classes.
Right. And overall, were you happy with how things were going, or?
I wasn't happy with, well, it was like this. Like you've created an app and you think, aha, so I found the solution, and then manager comes in and says, hey, we need to change this, and you saying, oh, I haven't found the solution, because the change came up to be a lot harder than you thought. And and I was doing this like iterations a lot. So like you found, then manager comes in and you adjust the solution to new requirements, and like, okay, I found another one solution, and I did this a lot of times, and then finally I understood that, well, I got tired of this, and I understood that I'm done. I don't know how to do this. Probably I'm not. It's better for me to become a musician one more time. And yeah, and then it was just like a fortune. I don't know. I found out this course, and yeah, everything was explained there. And I knew all the basic concepts. I knew how Solid works. I mean, I didn't know how it works. I knew what Solid is. I knew all the principles. I knew all the concepts that were shown in the program, but I didn't know how to glue it all together,
Right.
how to compose screens correctly, how to apply like dependency inversion principle and what it is about. So right now, at the moment, I understand every single letter in the Solid acronym, and I know that I apply it in my everyday job. So I know what S, what O, what L, what I, and what D is, and what it stands for, and how I use it, and how it moreover, how it helps my code base to become more flexible and maintainable.
Yeah. I think you were spot on, because I think that's the thing, right? Flexibility is this big desirable trait of an architecture, because you have the requirements today and you code it and it looks good, like you said. I think I got it this time, right? And then some change comes, and by the way, we are so bad with anticipating the changes that are going to come from the users, from our product owners, and we're just like surprised. Like, I didn't expect that, and now my system cannot accommodate that requirement. So how am I going to, like, I have to refactor for 2 days to write a 1 hour feature, something like that. So I think
Yes.
you put the spotlight on it, whereas if you just know these principles but don't have the glue, you're actually not reaping the benefits. You're not getting that flexibility. It's like separate things. You're using separate tools, but overall your system is not flexible. And
Yes.
it's pretty painful. Like you said, I remember all these cases in my career so well, when just you like, it was so hard to change, and especially a new feature required changes to old features. Like, that's also very painful, because now I can break other features. Like, I'm not sure on what I'm doing. So yeah. I think
Especially
we
without
got the,
having tests,
of
so
course.
that you cannot confirm that you haven't broken anything.
Yeah, of course. But a few years back, not a lot of people, at least in iOS projects, had tests. Nowadays, it's become more and more accustomed, I think. At least that's my experience. But if I look back, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago, not a lot of projects had tests. So it was exactly like that. So you had no idea.
I can confirm this because I've been interviewing to different companies, and some of these companies have quite a big history, and the apps are quite old, and they still do not have a good balanced testing pyramid. So I've been asking different companies, and what usually they have is a big chunk of integration tests that can be written either with XCUI test or with some external tool, and then almost no unit tests and absolutely no integration tests on the like app level. So it and the pyramid becomes like upside down, so
Yeah,
that you have
upside down.
a big part of integration tests and no unit tests.
Right. And how hard it is to work in a code base like that.
It's very hard because integration tests are slow, and
Yeah.
that's the main point. You cannot test drive if you don't have tests, if you don't have fast tests, if you don't have fast feedback from the tests.
Exactly.
And it actually became one of my first questions when I applied to a company. when they give me the time to ask questions to them, and I ask usually how long will it take to build the project, and is it possible to do TDD? How fast will I get the feedback from the tests? And if it's like, okay, it's 5 minutes, then it's not like it doesn't fit me, because it's impossible to do TDD.
Yeah, at least at first.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to recap here, you had these struggles that a lot of us had, gluing everything together, solid principles, like just how to do architecture in general in a modular approach, in a like following separation of concerns, and then you decided to join the program because you already saw so much content that it was pretty much clear this is the direction where all the lectures go into. And did you have second thoughts after deciding, or actually before deciding? Sorry.
Well, it was the moment. It was the first time that I was. I had how to say marriage. So on the 6th of September, we married with my wife, and we were going to our honeymoon travel, and in the airport there was the last call for joining the program, and I was struggling a bit whether I should spend so much money, because the price was quite high for me at those time. It was affordable, but it still was high. But then I decided to give it a try and just to join, because it was the only way for me to solve my internal developer problems. Well, at least I thought so, and yeah, it really worked out the way it was. And I was also referring to the video that Caio recorded about paying for education, so that if you are if you will get some increase in income, then it will be like a good deal, so that you pay a lot less than you get in the end of the program. And yeah, so I paid. It was just a leap of faith, and yeah, and I also was very curious, and yeah, I joined, and during the actually our honeymoon travel, I I was watching the videos when I had some time.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting because maybe other people have the same concerns about joining, so it's valuable to know how you decided. And like you said, yeah, it's a significant investment, but on the other hand, if we as individuals don't make these investments into our own careers, and we always expect like the company and my boss to send me to a course onto a program, then we're kind of leaving our career at their mercy. And I think that's at least suboptimal, if not like a bad idea, because their objectives are not always the same as ours. So yeah, I'm glad you talked about that. Did you have any other doubts? So besides like making a big investment of money?
No, absolutely no. I think that if you are a developer, then in every part of the world we have quite big salaries, and if you will gain even 50% or 30% increase in your salary, then you will probably earn this money that you spent on the program in several months. It's like 3, 5, 6 months. So even if you it's a simple calculation. Even if you are if you have a salary of $1,000 per month, then you think that you will increase it when you finish the course, it will be increased like by 30%. Then you will get this money back in like five months, right? So it's not a problem, because learning, for example, if you are applying to a university, then the education there costs a lot more. It's like 10,000 per year, and something in the middle, and it's a lot more, and you cannot be sure in the university, so that you will get the knowledge that you really need. But if you think that this is something that you need, then it's like a no-brainer. Yeah.
Right. And I guess you were already sure about the quality and the content, because you already saw some of the first module already, so you kind of knew what you're gonna get. That's also important.
Yeah, but I think that it is enough to see the the video about architecting the the analytics tracker, and the decision would be clear enough.
Cool. So you made the decision, you joined. What was your process of studying? Like, how'd you do it?
I would describe it like when you are so hungry and you feel like you can eat everything that's in your fridge. So that was my like state of mind at the beginning of the course, and I was really craving to know what would be in the end. And I started. I was just watching the videos, and since I was familiar with all the concepts, like I knew what is dependency injection. I knew what is like the only new concept for me was probably a composition root, and the hardest part was like with use cases. But but I was just going through the videos from the beginning till the end. I tried not to like stop and just keep on watching, and I did this for probably 2 months. So I ended all the videos in 2 months, and then I tried. In every video there was a piece of information that I could apply at work, and this is the main thing. So I never learn like in my own free time. Every time when I learn, I do it at work. I do it on real project. It can be risky sometimes, because I really had such a case when I tried Viper and TDD, and I really failed. But what helped me is that the company didn't pay money to our agency, and we had to break the contract, so yeah, it was quite a risky case, but for me it worked out. And I tried to apply all the knowledge that I have at work, and tried to like test it at work. Unfortunately, I had no time to practice TDD at work, because we didn't have the infrastructure settled up there. The architecture was not so testable. So that I didn't have enough time to like starting testing can be really time consuming, because you don't know where to start. You don't know.
Exactly.
Okay, I will start TDD. Okay, what test should I write first? And you don't know because you can start from everything, and everything looks very complex. And the answer here is start from the simplest thing that you can ever imagine for this specific class, even if it looks very stupid, silly, I don't know. And that is described in the program. So I watched the videos a lot, tried to apply it at work, and then I realized in 2 months, I realized that all good developers are doing TDD. If you ask, like, I don't know, Robert Martin, Martin Fowler, Ken Beck, a lot of people, awesome developers, they are doing TDD. If you want to be as good as them, you have to know TDD and you have to practice it. And that was my like pinpoint. I decided that, okay, from this moment, I'm trying doing as much TDD as I can. And that was the point where I started doing TDD project. A new project came in my company, and I was able to start it with TDD. And I really was able to accomplish some parts with TDD. Then the architecture was bad one more time. I had to refactor a lot of things one more time. But yeah, that's the actual thing. That's the process. Yeah. So that's how you learn it, and that's how you understand. Without making mistakes, you cannot succeed. You cannot do everything right from the beginning, right? So that's how you learn. And when you learn at work, then it is more valuable. It can be more valuable for you because the price of making a mistake is a bit bigger, because there is something on the table that you can like lose or break, or it is different from practicing in your like free time when you are doing your pet project and you are not like pushed by deadlines. And so that's why I always learn and practice at work.
Yeah. So I'm glad you shared all that. Where I wanted to maybe expand a bit is you some of the skills you acquire in the program are maybe easier to apply directly, whereas TDD, and I think I'm paraphrasing from Robert Martin, that said, if you're learning TDD and trying to apply it at your work project, you're gonna fail unless you practice first on some personal home project or like test project. It can be at work, but if you're trying to apply it to a scaled project already, like a real production code base, you're most likely gonna fail. And that was exactly my experience with it, because it's such a complex skill. You don't get TDD in one day. You have to make multiple iterations, multiple times. You need to fail at it before you start to make some sense about how to do it. And actually, I think from what you said, you couldn't apply it at work at first because of the architecture and the build times and everything. So that, I think, that was your actually lock spot, because it allowed you to apply it in a different setup afterwards where this was more applicable. But yeah, it's a skill that requires a lot of time before you can actually get some benefits out of it. And at first, it seems like it's not working. Like, I'm not able to write any tests. My code is not going in the right direction. A lot of people say it's stupid, right? Like, I'm just writing the minimum amount of code. I'm not. I know it's not the right code, but I still write it. Like, why? It can be very mind tricky. But yeah, we know it works. Like you said, a lot of the people we look up to as developers use these, and after playing around enough with it, we can definitely see the benefits.
I can explain this because when I'm saying that I'm doing this at work, the thing is that I was doing work in my free time, so that's why. So at my job time, like, I was doing my main duties and trying to implement the features in a way it was written before. And when in my free time, I tried doing TDD with the work project and if I spoiled something, that I had to spend also my free time on fixing this, right? And there is one interesting thing, is actually two interesting thoughts. The first one is that TDD is not a thing that you can say, okay, I've learned everything and I know TDD. Well, it's like, it's not binary, right? You cannot say that you either know or don't know TDD. you practice it all your life. And I think that everybody, even Ken Beck, has something to learn in TDD. The second thing is that this concept of prototyping that Caio might showed, I didn't pay attention too much to it, but I realized it just recently, a couple of months ago. So I'm still learning from something that I've seen in the program. The concept of prototyping is this thing that usually developers do. So you don't know how to solve the problem, and then you cannot start from TDD because you don't know what you expect from the code. You don't know the requirements. You have to somehow figure it out. And you don't know how to solve the problem. You don't know what code you will be writing. If you know, then it's easy to write tests first and then write implementation. It's a lot easier. But if you don't know, then it can be hard. It can be very challenging. And we discussed it with Pena, who is one of the instructors in Essential Developer. We discussed it that if you don't know how to implement it, then probably it is a good thing to prototype it first. So you are writing the code that like you were doing it before TDD. You try to write the code, you trying to come up with some draft, and then when you see finally how you will be doing this piece of feature, then you can test drive it. You can delete everything or put it aside, and then you can test drive it. And this is quite essential when you are not experienced, when you are not much experienced with TDD. So sometimes it is very helpful to create a prototype first and then to test drive it.
Yeah. That's a very good example, I think. Because most of the time you're in this spot where the requirements are not clear yet. And I've seen a lot of developers struggle with this, like say, okay, my product owner or project manager has failed to provide me with the requirements, so that's why I can't build a better feature or something like that. And they don't realize that it's their job as well to work with the team to get these requirements. So if you make the switch and then you follow what you just said, then you can, you say, okay, there's no way I can test drive this implementation because I don't have the details. So what's the next logical step? Well, it's building some prototype, which I'm not going to test drive because I can't, but I can write something and get in the hands of the people that make the decisions, so we can get a step closer to what the final feature should look like, right? So it's a small step shift, but it totally changes the way the interactions in your team work. And instead of just sulking up at your computer and saying like, those guys cannot send me the requirements, so I'm gonna, I don't know, do something else in between, or like you're part of the team, and that's actually get so much more productive by engaging in that dialogue. So I think that's one of the slight but very important pieces of information you get in the program, like that positioning you have in the team, not just as a developer, like writing code, but like a member that gets involved in requirements and UX. And
it's fun. I think it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun and it's rewarding. And all right. So just to maybe take a step back and continue our direction. So we talked about how the program experience was, like how you actually couldn't wait to get till the end of the series to see everything in there and see how you can apply it. Now, looking back at the struggles you had originally, particularly with architecture and like tying everything together, How did the program help you with that? Like, how was the response you got to your questions? Like,
Well, as I was always saying, guys gave me confidence. So when I started the program, I knew a lot of different ways of solving problems. I knew that I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, but I wasn't able to compare it, and I wasn't able to understand what are the pros and cons of different solutions. Right now, I understand what all the benefits of all the solutions, and I understand how it works, how it should be, and so the main benefit is that I am confident in my solution. I know that if I am going to make a decision, I know why I'm doing this, why I'm choosing like MVP instead of MVC, or why I'm choosing. I don't even like all this MVP, MVC, MVVM, Viper, and all this stuff, because people usually talk too much about this letters MV whatever,
yeah,
but somehow I don't know, but most of them don't see that like Viper is just an extended version of MVP, and MVP is an extended version of MVC, and everything is extended version of a single class, and that's it. So they are evolutionary, and right now I understand all this stuff. And actually, there is one thing that I can't stop thinking. Robert Martin came up with Solid in 80s, right? Something like this. But people still, the programmers still, I don't feel like programmers understand solid principles enough in 2022. And it like 30 years at least passed through, and people still don't understand how to like do software. And it's really surprising. At least it was for me.
yeah,
So the main benefit is my confidence in my decisions. So I cannot say that, okay, I will be doing like Viper for this feature because of this. No, I know where to start, and now I know how it should look like. I don't know the steps in the middle, how I will get to the point, to the code that I see, but I know the next step which I have to do to achieve the goal. So every time you like doing an iteration, you have something and you know what you have to end up with, and then you know what next step you have to make in order to become closer. And when you do enough steps, then you get to the point. This confidence, knowing what is composition root, knowing what is prototyping, knowing about dependency injection, knowing about decorators, all this stuff for me is quite a technical knowledge that I can like find in the internet. It's not the main value. The main value of the program is about how all these things act together and how it helps you to come up with the correct architecture and what actually architecture is. I like what Robert Martin said about like if you like have a plan of a library, you see this schema like architecture of a library, or if you have a plan of a building, you can see that okay, it's a library because okay, there is a reading room, there is a toilet, like there is a reception desk. I don't know. You can see what this building is about by looking at its contents, and
right,
the architecture is about this. If you open the project and you see the controllers, like protocols and all these folders that are technical, then probably the architecture is not good enough, and the separation is not good enough. And what I try to achieve is that you open the project and you see what this project is about. And this is quite interesting part of programming.
yeah. You see features probably, right? Not
Yeah,
how you implemented
exactly,
them.
exactly.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think it's an important point in your career, and I think the program really helps with that, is understanding that all these MVC, MVVM, MVP, Viper are just UI design patterns. And we used to, like, I used to struggle on every project to fit my code into one of these letters.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about anything else. That's why they have like even job descriptions like MVVM iOS developer. Like, and
Yeah.
the first question in the interview is, okay, how would you implement this with MVVM? It's like, and what that encourages you to do is to fit everything into one of the letters. Like, it's, where do you put that code, in the view or in the view model? Like, and there's no room for architecture, because architecture
Yeah.
is, it gives you the ability to use all these patterns, all these different objects, to follow the single responsibility principle, and to have many, many small composable types. Whereas the other paradigm is to, okay, just for each feature or each screen, one view, one model, one presenter, whatever your letter combination is, and try to fit everything
Yes.
inside.
Yes.
And now a lot of people just talk about how MVVM, I don't know, solves the massive view control, but you're just shifting away from a massive view control to a massive view model or a massive presenter. Like,
Mess it,
it's
whatever.
the same. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same problem. And I think also I heard that in a Robert Martin keynote, where he said, like, you're get to that point where your system cannot be modified anymore because it's so inflexible, and you say, okay, we need to rewrite this is so bad, and you rewrite it, but you you fall in the same mistakes again,
Yeah.
because you actually don't understand how to write a flexible architecture. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I totally understand that. I think it's a very valuable lesson that really changes the way you think about things, and all that confidence you mentioned. Yeah, of course you're confident, because if you apply the principles and everything is simple to understand, simple to write, composable, like, yeah, of course you have a lot of confidence. You have tests. Like, what's to be scary out there? Like, everything can be decomposed into small problems, right? So it's
Yeah,
very, very
and
natural.
also when you are trying to, when you are given a project, like, or even it's the project that you've written like a couple of months ago, and you need to do some changes and you don't have tests, you are scared every time. So that you know that if you change here, then it possibly can be broken in other place, and the amount of these places can be quite big, so that you are not able to check everything and to put everything into your mind, right? Without tests. With
Right.
tests, it's a no-brainer. You just change and see if something is failed.
Yeah.
If something fails, then okay, I need to fix this, and this, and I need to fix this test and fix this test and fix this test. So
Yeah.
tests are really giving you confidence and
Yeah.
making you like a lot softer, I would say calmer. So you are confident, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that when I first learned about MVC and about this pattern, I was asking and looking for the answer in the internet a lot about what the model is and what the view is actually, because in MVC it's not clear what the view is. The only thing that is clear that the controller is UIV controller subclass. That's it. What the view is unclear, because there can be a lot of views, one controller, and what the model is, if the screen is complex and composite, then it can be like either the model is like a simple data structure, or it is a loader, or it is whatever else, a service. Where the model is, I was looking for it, and finally now I understand where the model is, and you have to probably, if you are listening to this, you have to finish the course to figure out where the model is. The more interesting fact is that in the first versions of the MVC, the controllers were also the views. So the views was a class that renders the data, and the controller was the class that accepts input. But if you open, for example, your iPhone and start typing, tap to a text field, you see the keyboard, right? Is it a view or is it a controller? If you see the hardware keyboard on your laptop, then it is definitely a controller. But if you see the same one on your screen, is it a view? Is it a controller? What is the model for it? And when you finish the course, you start thinking about a bit of different level of problems, not about some specific parts, about MVC, MVV, and what to choose, or should I use reactive programming for this? Should I use Combine? Should I use Swift UI or UIKit? It doesn't matter. That what matters is how you know the tools, and UIKit is the tool, and how you know the concepts, and the concepts are solid principles, are dependency injection principles, are composition root, and all the stuff that you will learn in the program. And that really what matters. That really what makes you a great professional, and that helps you even to switch to another language, because all these concepts are like, they are how to say it,
agnostic of language and platform.
Yeah, correct. So and I mean, you can create decorator in Python, you can create decorator in Ruby, in JavaScript, in whatever language you choose. And that's the thing, because after the course, I've been doing some site development, I've been doing some JavaScript development, not professionally, but I still got some money for this, small money, because I don't have enough expertise. I don't know the tool enough. But I knew the concepts, and I'm quite fine with the result that I had, because I knew the concepts. I knew how to compose the code, how to write code. That's what matters.
Right. Going back to our journey.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to see these increases in your skills and confidence and income, of course, after starting the program?
Well, it's quite fast. So I started the course in in October. Then I finished the course in somewhere in November or December. At those point, there were only 2 challenges. I don't remember, either 2 or 3, but it was a lot easier. And in May, I already got a new role, and I was able to pass the interview because I've been practicing TDD since I watched all the videos, since I make a decision to practice TDD, to follow TDD, and because I knew the TDD, I knew about testing, I knew about testing pyramid, I was able to answer all the questions, and I was able to even start working there without having experience of writing tests. I mean, a real work experience. I haven't done this at work. I tried doing this, but I failed a lot of times. I knew just some concepts. I tried it at work. I tried it at home, and I knew all this knowledge, and this knowledge helped me really to get my first job, where I got an increase in, I would say, let me say, it's about more than 2 times. So it's really 2.5. The thing is that I had a low starting level. My salary at my first job was not very high, but I got to a really cool company that I was watching videos from while I was working in my previous company, and I really haven't ever thought that I can work at this company. But yeah, just my friend just shared this vacancy, and I was able just to apply it, and I passed the interviews. and it was it was awesome. So I was able to pay for this course in 1 month. So yeah, and not pay but reimbursed, right? And then after working at this big company for 2 years, I had to, unfortunately, this company closed operation in Russia, and I had to find another job. And my friend, we were working together in this second company. He switched to a new company, and he suggested me to join him. So yeah, I just tried, and it was not a problem anymore. So right now I do not prepare for interviews. I think that if somebody asking you about something that you don't know at the interview, then probably this is not something that you will be using at work. I mean, if it's not very specific, if you are not applying for a job in TikTok or some video or whatever, metal, whatever company, then it should be fine. You should pass the interview. If you are not passing, then something wrong is either with the company or with the interview. Yeah, and I passed, and this is an offer that I'm waiting right now. So for relocation, it's a relocation to Portugal, and I'm waiting for a visa. It takes quite a long time, and right now I have quite a long transition period. It's more than 3 months. So I've stopped working. I quit job in the end of June, and I will be moving to Portugal in November. So estimated. Right. And it's like July, August, September, October, 4 months where I don't have a job, right? And I still have to.
What's your plan?
Yeah, I still have to pay my pay rent and buy food for my kid. So yeah, I was thinking about applying for a job here in Russia for just a probation period and then leaving. But I don't feel like it's really an honest thing, because usually companies are looking for a long time period, long time workers, and it's not very good thing. And that's why I just asked one of my friends who has an app. I asked him for a job, and then he said, yeah, okay, I have a job for you. And right now, even when I have like a freelancer job, a part-time, I'm working around 4 to 6 hours a day. And even now with working part-time, I'm having payment like 1.5 times more than I used to have in my previous company, that I had like 2.5 more than I had in my previous company. So even now I have this opportunity to choose the place to work at, and to find a job that really fits me, that really fits my needs. For example, I have a kid, so she's 5 months now, and she's very small, and she's very unpredictable. I don't know what she will be doing in the next 2 hours. Either she will be sleeping or eating or crying. I don't know, whatever. I need to spend, I need to pay my attention. And my wife is not made of what is very hard. I know she's not made of steel, right?
Yeah.
And I need to help her. So that's why I need to spend some time. I cannot work full time, because I need to spend some time to my daughter. And yeah, so I was able to find a job that I'm having more salary, that is more convenient, and the build time there is a lot faster. So yeah, right now I'm able to apply TDD like because build times are really fast, and the app is quite small. And yeah.
And now looking back, that you mentioned all these new opportunities, would you say that those opportunities are unlocked to you because you acquired all these new skills? Is that fair to say?
Yes, Yes, definitely. So because I think that if you know TDD, then I mean, learning the specific tool is not a problem. Learning how StoreKit works is not a problem. You can do this in one evening or, okay, in 2 evenings. You only need to know some reference information, like which methods to call in which order, right? But what's more important is how to make your app maintainable, testable, and flexible so that you can change some parts without affecting other parts, without breaking other parts. What's more important, right? So if you do know some specific tool, it's not a big problem, and you can like learn it on the way if you need to. But if you do know the basic concepts, then it's a lot more problem.
Yeah, cool. So I'm just curious because, like I said, I never tried relocating. How'd you manage to get an offer with relocation support and a big increase in income? Like, how'd you get that offer?
You have
Uh,
to pick the companies that that don't pay much, and then you will get increase in your salary. That's quite obvious. Well,
right.
yeah, just joking. So yeah, the companies pay different, and it can be also partially it can be luck, but I think that what's more important here is that if you are a good developer and you work with other good developers, then that was actually also mentioned in the course. If you are a good developer and you're working with another good developer, and this another good developer goes to another company, and the payment there and all the like conditions there are greater, then why shouldn't he like reference you and suggest you applying for this new job? I think people, if you are really good, then people will be suggesting you offers enough. And what needs to be,
Yeah.
what you need to be good is just start learning TDD, start thinking about architecture, start thinking about, try to answer the question, what is the model in MVC? And this will make you the whole career, I think.
Right. All right. I think I want to also ask you something. So, about all these offers you managed to get, because I think it's important once you get to a certain level in your career and you start to get more of the things you want, as opposed to maybe at the beginning where you kind of settle for what you find.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm maybe more interested in this part. But there's this thing where sometimes when you're a junior, you want to achieve something and you think you need to do, I don't know, X and Y to achieve that. And when you achieve it, you actually realize that X and Y were not important, and you had to do Z to get there. Was that the case for you?
Yeah. So what I can say is that I try to focus on the process. I love coding. I love programming. And the specific part that I like is like creating these small components that you can reuse like a Lego blocks, right? And create from them something that is awesome, like Lego technique, something, whatever. And when I was a junior developer, I tried to think about how to make my changes easier. So it was not this like some specific task like, okay, I have to learn what the dependency injection is. I have to know the DI containers. I have to learn how RX programming works. No, all this knowledge came from my willing to know how to make changes fast, how to make it easier, because I am lazy, and I think good programmers should be lazy.
Yeah.
If I mean no routine, uh, you can try exercise as an exercise. Try to automate everything that you can in your life, like sending emails, creating whatever. I don't know, using shortcuts on your iPhone. It can be just an exercise. And so I tried to learn the process. I tried to make my life easier because I was lazy. I tried to find out how to make changes easier. And this led me to learning Eric Swift because it was easier than like to import the third party than to create this completion blocks with all this callback hell. And this was the solution, right? So that you can change requests and not create all these callbacks with this arrow thing. And this is one specific example. And there are a lot more. I don't remember everything right now. So if you are a junior developer, then try to think of how to make your life easier. Try to think of making changes easier. And this probably will lead you to the answer. If you think of money and earning more money, I don't think that, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, I don't think that if you are a programmer thinking about money, then probably you'd better switch the job and find another one, because the more important thing is to have fun, right? We are all having fun. And because I love my job, I love coding, and that makes me fun. So this is the second thing. And the last thing that I decided for myself is that if you set some long-term goals, then when you achieve it, then you probably at the point when you achieve it, you can realize that this is not something you was looking for. You were looking for it, right? Yeah, and probably you were looking for something else. And this relates to the question about the model. When you think that the model is just a struct, then and then finally you understand that it's not a struct, it probably can be a class. And when you understand that it can be a class, then you understand that it probably not a class, not even a class, right? So this is the same. That's why I decided not to pick some long-term goals and I'm just free floating, just doing whatever happens. So right now I'm having a good job and I don't need another one. And if at some point I will be suggested a better one, then I will think of switching. But yeah, I don't think about it right now. And if I were a junior developer, then I would be thinking about making better and upgrading, improving at my job and trying to provide better code, better quality, and faster. So I would be thinking about this stuff. And if you think about it, then all these technologies, all this tooling, then it's like a magnet. You will need these tools to achieve your goal, but the goal is not the tool, right?
Right.
Something like this. That's why I do not put any like long-term goals. I just do whatever happens and try to react to whatever happens. Something like this.
Yeah, I mean it's a personal answer. Everybody has its
definitely.
own style and everything. So
I mean, I'm not good at long-term goals. I was never able to achieve anything that I planned because I probably did it wrong. But it's not mine. I'm just doing whatever happens. And yeah, it led me to where I'm at right now.
I think it's a matter of how you look at it, because I don't think like even long-term goals are like set in stone. They're enough to move you in a direction, and you reevaluate after some time and decide, okay, that's not exactly where I want to get, but it's kind of in the same direction. So I make an adjustment and make another step, and that takes you can take you far away. So I see it still as beneficial. It's just something that gets you moving, like whatever.
Yeah.
Different people have different things that will make them act. Some just take a leap of faith and join a program, right? Easy and but the long-term commitment and the big investment. So it really depends.
Yeah. So from this point, the long-term goal can be to learn how to make my life easier, right? So, and I'm still doing it. Or long-term goal can be to learn the TDD because it will make my life easier, right?
Right. So yeah, we've mentioned TDD so much. If we're to say what are the main takeaways for you from the program, is that TDD? What else? Like
TDD and the gluing of all the concepts. TDD, composition root, prototyping. We've mentioned it a lot of times. So, and yeah, proper composition, something like this.
yeah. And can you think of an example maybe where like all these learning these skills or applying actually these skills helped you and your team? Can you think of such an?
Well, it's hard to come up with something because I've been working for a real good company and we had applied all the solid principles there and everything was tested. Not always it was like a TDD, but it was always covered with tests.
Right.
So, and this actually helped the company. The app is quite big. It's more than 1 million lines of code. And it's like 50 developers that are working on the same code base. Some part it's two apps, and some parts of it are shared modules between two apps. So there is a shared core and not core, not even core. Some features are shared, some features are not shared. Different layers, and it's a really complex thing, and a lot of people are working on it, and they are still succeeding. They are still able to provide new features, to provide a lot of new features, actually a lot of A/B tests, and provide good quality, and do not have a lot of regressions, and yeah, everything that you can imagine. Then it's about the app.
Nice. I guess also like a steady pace of on development, like architecture not getting in the way, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So any advice for our viewers today?
Be curious.
Be curious. Nice,
Yeah,
nice one.
and find the answer to what the model is and what the view is, and what's the difference between the view and the controller, and if the keyboard in iOS is the view or a controller.
Nice one. Like more philosophical question, something to ponder.
Not really. It's quite. I would not say that it's philosophical. It has an answer.
Well, it does, but we could probably spend, I don't know, half an hour bringing pro and con arguments on
Yeah.
on all of them. So
Yeah.
perhaps some other time we can do that. I want to thank you for being open about sharing your story. I think it will help a lot of our viewers
So
or the developers watching us. Again, congratulations for all the amazing things you accomplished so far, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
yeah, thank you.
Sure, it was nice having you.
Nice to be here.
For our viewers, if you want to learn more, just visit us at essentialdeveloper.com. And there you can find a bunch of free resources to improve your iOS dev skills, and also on all our social channels like YouTube, Twitter, and so on. Thank you.